if there was ever a conversation that lit me up, it's this one with my best friend, my college roommate, my singing partner in crime, my poo. His name's Joshua Moore, but he goes by J.Moore, and he is someone you absolutely want to know as a creator, but also just as a person. He has the biggest heart I have ever seen, and I can't wait for you guys to meet him and learn more about his creative alchemy journey. Let's tune in. And we are recording. Hey, hey, hey. All right, guys, I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am to have this person right here with me today. This is not just a friend. This is not just like someone who I've met in the creative world, not at all. In fact, I met him when I would say I was at my absolute beginning. The absolute beginning. So before there was a Sun Ray, before there was a Rachel Ray, before there was any projects in my adult world, this is someone I knew and someone who has literally walked every step of the way with me. So it's such a blessing to be here with my good friend who I'm gonna just put it out there. I'm probably gonna refer to as Pooh quite a bit through this session. It is what it is, and he will probably call me the same. But this is J.Moore of 180 Styles, and I'm just gonna pass it to him. Tell us a little bit who you are, why you're here with that big old lovely smile.
First of all, I'm so giddy, right? I just can't stop. I'm so happy. This is good. I'm so excited. Okay, all right. No, I'm real happy to be here. I second all of that you said, and I didn't forget the question. What was the question? I'm so.
Tell us who you are. Listen, we have never, just to give you guys some background, we have never done a recording together in all of our 12 plus years of knowing each other. We have never done anything creatively together. We have supported each other in many different ways. So I would love for them to know who you are from your own words, Pooh.
Awesome. Shout out to Pooh. No, this is good. Okay, so let me put my professional hat on, right? So I would say, as far as the work that I do, I'm the co-founder of 180 Style. Shout out to my business partner, Jonathan. 180 Style is a wardrobe concierge service. And currently right now we're based in Detroit, but we are expanding. And essentially what we do is we kind of do everything from your wardrobe needs. And also we do everything from a concierge need as well too. So our slogan is all we need you to do is show up. So let me just give you a quick example, right? And that's the cool part, because it was designed around folks like myself and you and other people that I know that really value their time. Yeah. And so on the concierge side, like I said, all we need you to do is show up. We will take care of what we call it's one of the things that we do is called date crafting. So if you were going on a date, or someone was taking you on a date, they would book our services. They fill out a survey. They talk about their budgets, their needs, basically anything that they think their date or they would be interested in, and we would simply take care of everything else. So it's a really, really good service. I would use it myself. Or if you were traveling, certain things to basically make sure that you're comfortable, we would take care of that. And then on the wardrobe side, we have a couple different services like closet auditing, virtual styling, personal shopping. We have a grooming session for the men. And then it's so interesting because there's so many, and women probably know this more than men do, but there's so many men that, can I swear on here?
Okay. Yeah, we can be ourselves, but keep it friendly for the YouTube.
Okay. There's so many men that don't wash properly. And it's really interesting because we'll go through things with our clients and we realize that, and these are grown men that are married, have families, have spouses, and they are not getting in the nooks and crannies and not taking care of what they need to take care of. That's the PG version. So
yeah.
Literally go through everything, and it's real cool. It's real dope. We also talk about confidence, right? So we hit on that section where a lot of men, we just have just as many insecurities as women do. I think we showcase them very differently. And we talk about that. We deep dive into that so you can have the tools and resources to not only look great and feel great, but also be able to fix whatever that kind of that toxin or that damage is on the inside. So that
That's
is where I'm at.
incredible.
So yeah, no,
Gosh, that's first of all, I'm hearing about the depth of your services for the first time, and I definitely want to have a full conversation about that because there's some things that came up for me. The key word being confidence. I think that a service like that, the key word would be confidence. And so let's jump right in with that word. I think that that'll be our focus for today. And so thinking back to when we met, and I mentioned, meeting you. So to give you guys the backstory, and Pooh jump in whenever. I was a freshman at Columbia College in Chicago. A lot of you, if you watched our welcome series, you know a lot about my story. But Creative Flow Alchemy, as it is today, began in 2008. The beta project or the market research began in 2008 when I was living with my with Pooh's roommate, my boyfriend at the time. Shout out to our core four because we were we ended up creating this amazing kind of like family unit out of a really weird situation. So I was freshman, fresh out of, from Detroit to Chicago, and moved into the dorms, found out I couldn't afford to be there. Typical first gen college student mess that I think so many of us figure out on our own. And but instead of leaving Columbia, I fought to stay my first year, and I did not want to do the commute from the South Side to downtown every day. Unfortunately, I had a boo, and my boo had a dorm that was right below mine, and that boo said move in, and so I ended up living with 6 male roommates. Pooh, how was that experience? Before we talk about how we met specifically, how would you describe living with like 5 other men and then me?
it was horrible. So it just
Ain't no other way to put it, right?
it was garbage. And so I guess I don't know. How can I say this? Like maybe it's just me. And I grew up in a big family. I have 2 older brothers. I grew up with my mom and dad. It was 5 of us, right? But I was not used to living that close with, I guess, peers that I'm not bloodline related to, that you can tell the truth, but you can't all the way tell the truth all the time. So, but it was horrible and it was disgusting. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to relive it. It was I mean, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Like all of us that was in there, not you, but as far as all the males, we all could have been clients of 180 style because it was disgusting.
Absolutely. Do you remember? Okay, guys. So we're both from Michigan, and we both come from bigger families, and we met each other for the first time in that dorm space. So I think I was only there for a couple of weeks before Josh moved in into the dorms. Excuse me, J.Moore, and moved into the dorms. And all I can say is we found each other really quickly.
We sure did. Didn't take long at all.
Didn't take long because it was just rough. It was very rough. Now, to give you a little bit of perspective, the dorms are set up with either bunk beds or like 2, extra long twins, traditional college room situation, but in a Chicago downtown loft. So it was like luxurious living, but a bunch of craziness inside of it. And yeah, would I do it again? No, but being the lady of the house, I would often like take these massive projects on like cleaning the kitchen and then cooking meals for everyone. Back then we was drinking grape Kool-Aid and living pretty luxuriously for broke college kids. I don't regret any of it. It definitely was a chapter of my life that I am grateful for because I met 3 really important men who later on became, again, family. And who is my first adult friend. I would consider him the first friend that, along with my roommate Ken, actually, with our roommate Ken, who has helped shape and mold my relationships with men and with men that were not family. They fortified me and just supported me and made sure that I was safe and well all the time. They also annoyed the heck out of me, and I'm sure I micromanaged every fraction of their life because that's just what I do. But I love them. And, Pooh, when you think back to that, how would you describe us? Like, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe me? How would you describe the experience?
So I'll talk about from 2 perspectives actually. So what Pooh didn't say, shout out to Pooh, is that so yeah, we were roommates with the 6 plus 7 with Rachel. And then after that, it was the four of us that moved into a separate space as well too. So
Yeah.
we was in this thing, right?
Yeah, we got an apartment a little further on our own, and it was myself, my boyfriend, our roommate Ken, and Pooh. So
Yes. And so kind of, I guess, to give both sides. So when it was seven of us, I was like, oh, this is cool. Another person from Michigan, we can connect. It was, it was great. And we had this chemistry. We watched this crazy nanny show that these kids was acting crazy on, which we'll get there in a second. And then also from the other side, when we moved together and it was just us four, who is this firecracker? Who is this lady? Where did she come from? I want my money back. But I know it's of quality, so I'm going to figure this out. And you remember, but do you remember? I think this is when we were close, but when we got super close, it was over some tissue. I think, was it tissue? I
it
remember.
was tissue. So our home setup at the time was 2 floors. There was a 1.5 bath, the 1 bedroom, all three, well, there were 3 bedrooms. My boyfriend and I shared one, and then they had their own. And so, yeah, we all shared the master bathroom. And then I took on the other. Now, mind you, I did all the work from finding the place, pulling these boys together, whipping them into shape, making sure we got the place, the lease signed, all from distance because I think you were teaching at a summer camp. You were counseling at a summer camp.
Yep.
Kim was working, I know, on campus. Roman was working, and then I was working as well. So it was just one of those things like, all right, guys, we need a new place to live in. We are not doing this Columbia thing again. Let's find a place. So in the midst of all that, as a gift to myself, the lady again of the home, I wanted the half bathroom, and no one had a problem with that. But then the issue of the tissue.
Well, it was the problem was, and I know this is all over the place, but when it makes me laugh to this day because we got so close afterwards. I remember distinctly, I was sleeping on the floor because I was tired, and I don't think we had furniture at the time either.
We had no furniture, a box on the floor, I think.
I was sleeping on the floor. Rachel comes in, her boyfriend
After work.
tissue. Yep, then tissue. So she is raising hell. Like, where's the tissue? Which is, I guess now being a grown man, it absolutely makes sense.
I hope 180 style would tell people to keep tissue.
Yes, absolutely. So it completely makes sense. But I remember looking up and basically I said some words like, don't nobody want to hear that. And the conversation went up. And our other two roommates at the time are looking because I'm fire, Rachel fire, and we're just like going at it. And then it all worked. And now we here. But to go back to the original question, I just had to get that out. To go back to the original question, I'll speak for myself. So I had to be 19, 18 at the time. I'm a year older than you. So for sure, 100% sure, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out who I was, trying to figure out where I was at in a creative space, coming from Lansing, which is smaller than Detroit, to come to Chicago. And I'm around not even just creatives, but the city that's so liberal, right? Lansing is conservative, crazy conservative compared to Chicago, even Detroit or Grand Rapids. And so coming from there where we're behind even in technology and other things, I mean, the capital's here, but I joke all the time that we just pay bills in Lansing. I mean, really, that's just what it is. And so going there and just trying to figure out who I was in that space, I mean, now looking back, it was almost like torture. But at the time, it's just like, it's almost like you have a bunch of trauma and you just trying to dig yourself out the hole. And so I think all of us was in that space, but I'll speak for me personally. I definitely was not secure. I was not comfortable within myself. I was not comfortable with being creative or showing my art or just really tapping into those areas of interest that I wanted to, and which is a testament to our relationship, right? Because you really in that virgin state of just like fresh eye into the world, trying to figure this out. So,
wow, you hit on so much. We were definitely out here feeling our way through the situation. No blueprint, no game plan, no mentorship. Despite the thousands of dollars that we invested in our education, we didn't, there was no return on investment in those early period, in that early period. And I am just, when I think about that, it was a very challenging time, but finding a tribe, like finding your people in the midst of it is a blessing. And we were really close. Like our little group of four became very close, so much so that like we we're still all very close. Like we still connect to each other. We may not talk every single day, which is just a part of growing up and becoming adults, but we all are always aware of where the other person is, what's happening in the world, and that they're okay. So we've all kind of went our different pathways and started either families or businesses or new careers or changed our fields. But what I would say, just back to that confidence word, is like, you know, coming from where we came from, there was so much insecurity. I
Yes.
remember coming from Detroit, being a artistic, creative person from Detroit is actually very common.
Mm-hmm.
Going into a city bigger than the city that you're from and navigating it, being like a mice in, you know, in a rat's race, so to speak, it's so hard. And at the same time, I think you know you're on the right path when you're meeting the right people. That's kind of my sign. I measure success by my relationships first. So my personal relationship with myself, am I self-aware? Um, am I self-aware? Do I know who I am? Am I able to articulate that confidently? And number two, are my relationships reflective of that? And I would definitely say we spent our formative years with each other,
Absolutely.
developing true relationship.
And if I can jump in too and say this, I think with that, and this is for everybody, but I can speak to our situation, like we learn how to fight, right? Not physically like each other, but you learn how to fight the world, you learn how to fight trauma, you learn how to fight all these negative things that are against you. And which is the cool thing about being at an art school, because I mean, the slogan, shout out to Columbia, create change. So,
Woo! We
so
did get that.
yeah, so you learn all these different tools, but then if you have a circle of folks that is willing to love you where you at and to grow with you and to tell you the truth, right? Even when it doesn't feel good, uh, doesn't do anything, end up empowering you and get you kind of where you're at now. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that confidence, all of you have to go. I'm gonna preach this thing. You have to go through the fight in order to get to like the confidence level or to kind of get where you need to be at, you know, like
Yeah.
that's a necessary evil, you know.
Yes.
End it there.
Yes. No, we never tapped out, and it was not easy. I mean, we had to fight ourselves. We had to fight each other. We had to fight for each other. We saw so many battles, and I think that is really representative of the creative journey. You're
Yes.
going to come up against different, you know, levels everywhere, different devils, as I say, every level. But I truly believe that there will come a point where the only thing that you actually have to fight against is the decision of how you're going to move forward, and not anybody external anymore. And we learned that with each other. Like, I think about, you called us fire. And so just, you know, Jay is a Sagittarius. I am a Gemini. So it's like fire and air. And so that's just a hot mess blowing around. If it's left, you know, it's real hard to put fire out with air. It's impossible, actually. You'd have to cut it off. Okay. So just imagine our strong personalities coming together, dominating the space truly, because our other roommates were definitely a lot more passive, Aquarius, and I can't remember Ken's sign right now, but just really different energies. And what I'll tell you is we figured it out, because everything truly is figure outable. And that's what I learned with us.
Absolutely, and you hit it on the head. I can't remember what words you said, but basically, I thought about that is like it really is the decision. You're talking about the decision. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a self thing. You have to, because the world is going to tell you you can't do this, you can't do that. It's all these different types of no's in every shape, form possible. But really, after you make up your mind, you really do have to do the work within yourself to figure out, am I going to keep pushing through this? Am I going to give up? Or to have to be smart enough to step back and say, okay, this is not working. This is not working. Let me figure out, let me go a different route. So let me not give up, but I'm aware that I'm tapped out. Like I've tried all the different 100 million ways that this could work, and it's not working. So maybe I need to channel that energy, still keep that idea, but then maybe go a different route as well.
I
So
love that. Let's talk about the pivot then. Let's talk about your creative journey. Give the people a little bit of background on maybe your childhood, the things that inspired you, how that affected you, maybe choosing to go to an art school, coming from Lansing, and then how you got where you are today.
absolutely. So I would say and I've spent a lot of time in therapy because I believe in mental health and working this thing out, and to also just present day being a black male and trying to figure it out. Shout out to all the black males that are watching. Get your mental health together. You need that. All right. Don't let anybody tell you that that is crazy. It's soft. Anything negative, because you're very strong. You have a lot of influence. So go ahead and get it. If not for anybody else, but just yourself. So I just want to give that plug.
Thank
But
you.
think back to myself as a young child, and it does play into it, right? And this is my journey. So as like a young black boy, how the world is set up currently is that you don't get an option to be a young boy or a child for long. You just don't. It's just not our reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but if I had that layer removed and I went back to my true authentic self, I would say that can be, obviously, if I'm comfortable with you, then I can speak my truth. But I realize with my time alone, and once again through my own therapy and just work, is that I truly am okay with just kind of sitting there and being reserved, not talking, and just observing. I wouldn't say that I'm shy, but definitely reserved or a bit more slow to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
if I kind of stayed in that lane, I would say having to learn to fight through that and coming into something that makes me comfortable, which is kind of the creative zone of seeing myself going from that to this. I've had to learn to be strong. I've had to learn to articulate myself. I've had to learn to be analytical. And I've also had to learn to fight in various different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But that's long-winded. Sorry, Pooh. But
No,
that's
speak your
long.
truth. We're here to hear from you. So I'm
But
sure you're speaking to people. Like those are some really beautiful things. So please, share yourself.
so I've just had to basically learn to be okay that like at home, and this is like child and adult, but at home I can be comfortable within myself, but out in the world still can be comfortable and still have courage and confidence to go out and be a bit more reserved, but also letting people know they can't push me over, and so to
Yeah.
speak. But far as the creative journey, and leading up to 180 style, really what I did, I mean, I was my own case study. So
Yes,
the
absolutely. Tell them about those retail days and all that good stuff. And
the confident stuff and trying to figure that out, of like always trying to find masculinity, right? I told you I grew up with two older brothers and a dad. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a two-parent household. But males, we have this thing where we're always trying to define masculinity. How
Mhm.
manly am I? Am I going to look too soft and fluffy? Am I not going to be mannish enough? Right. And these are all things we talk about in 180 style, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But like I said, I was my own case study of growing up with two older brothers that were the complete opposite of me, like the complete opposite of me in every single level, excuse me. And so with that, I've learned in my journey is that you being able to shoot hoops, or you being able to get the most girls, or having the best card, that does not make you a man, right? It's about having emotional intelligence. This is my story. I don't know if this is for anybody else, but
Yeah.
this is for
Tell your
me.
story. Tell your story.
Uh, tell your story. Tell your story.
I'm
I've had,
loving it, guys. I'm loving it because I'm hearing this from your voice and
I
from your
know.
perspective, and it's really beautiful. And I'm
Thank you.
grateful that you are sharing the things that matter to you and not just coming on here talking about things that you think are trendy or things that you think, we're not here for buzzwords. I really want to hear your flow, your
I
journey.
appreciate that. Thank you
Mhm.
for creating that safe space. So yeah, I would say my biggest thing, and maybe that's what I was trying to get up to, is really having emotional intelligence of myself and having to define what it is to be a man and what that masculine energy is. And really, if you break it down, we all possess masculine and feminine energy, but we have been brainwashed and we're so superficial. And this is male and female to
Mhm.
say that like, oh, you're not man enough because you don't do X, Y, and Z, or you're not woman enough because you don't do X, Y, and Z, which is all false. It really comes back to self-love. And I had to learn to love myself for who I am and to really embrace that and say to myself, you're cool. you're handsome, you're good looking, you got good teeth, you know, you got a killer personality, you're intelligent. And really, I had to do a deep dive, and I still do the work today of really finding that self love. But the biggest thing I would say for me was emotional intelligence. You possess that, which I think why we get along and our bond is like crazy strong. Is
Work.
absolutely. It's just as good as it is to have a good physical body and to look good and to work out. Your mind, man, if that is not on tight, everything else is a wash. You might as well throw it away. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, what it sounds like to me is that you are speaking on the most important, almost like the formula, so to speak, for how you gotten through your journey, which I think is really powerful. And I'm pulling out of that right back to this confidence is that you had to work for it. And the way that you worked for it, the way that you got to that chapter of your life or to this, I would say to this awareness is through looking at people in your life who were important to you, comparing yourself, and then realizing it's not a comparison. So, you know, kind of we model ourselves after our family. We model ourselves after the people who we spend the most time with, which is why they say, be careful who you spend your time with. That is a reflection of who you are every single time. So, I mean, 18 years of our life at minimum, most of us are modeling what we have been taught from our parents or our caregivers at the very, you know, our caregivers or those who we share space with. So then to be thrust into the world and say, go out there and live as you are is almost a joke. You know, it's offensive actually, you know.
On that note, I was in the barbershop. This is pre-COVID, right? And so, and you know how barbershops go, like it's a whole thing, right? Beauty supplies and beauty shops.
Yeah.
And so my background is in education. I was a middle school teacher before I start doing what I'm doing now. And so the guys were talking, and it was one guy that was in there, and he was talking about that very thing about pushing his son out into the world, right? And once again, this is my truth. I go to a black barber shop, and you know, most of the folks that go there are black. So number of reasons why I'm just like, that's not like we're not prepared to go into the world.
No,
because
we're not.
You know, literally as a black male, you could die tomorrow for just being black walking through the store. That's hard facts, right? And so on top of that, he was complaining about how his son basically he thought that he was being lazy and he wasn't doing this and wasn't doing that. And I'm not his dad, so it could have been right. You know, he could have been his thoughts. However, what I did say, very unpopular opinion, I'll give you that. I asked Dad, I said, I want to challenge you. Did you and your partner, whoever you're with, so I don't know if that's your wife, your girlfriend, or whoever your partner is, but did you all teach him what he needed to have the skills and resources from like financial, you know, from being set up from a bank account or investments and all of that good stuff, when it comes to property and real estate, when it comes to education, when it comes to professional development, you know, so I listed out all these things, and the dad really didn't have much to say, but that goes back to your point where like, you're at 18, you're just a baby. You don't have the tools and resources that you need to be a proper adult. There's no way you can get that. You're under the watch or under the care of somebody else.
Let's be clear, and there is no proper adult, right? Like, what is that? I'm 30, and I'm like, oh, this how we want to do this? You mean I spent 29 years like doing that, and I don't even actually enjoy that? You know, that happens. You wake up, you look up, and you have the absolute permission to change your mind about things. So being 18 is literally the time, or being thrust into adulthood. For some people that's 14, for some people that's 18, for some it's 30, right? Before you leave home and start your life. And there is absolutely no one way to do it. But I believe that changing your mind, that statement in itself is when you are becoming an adult, because everything prior to that is somebody else's opinion and way and structure that has been imposed on you. And you know, in a perfect situation, you have learned financial management, you have learned people skills, you have been groomed for emotional intelligence. But we know that if that were the case, then we would not have the society that we have today, where here in America specifically, we are pushed to get out there, go from one factory to the next factory, being a traditional education system, to
Mhm.
becoming a college student and going a traditional route, literally to working for some Fortune 500 company or getting your traditional 9 to 5. That entire system was set up for us to not think on our own and to not have a personal identity or awareness. So yeah, it's pretty tough.
Absolutely. And then this may be like a part to another conversation. So after you work through all of that, after you work all of that, you then have to go in, and you were really good. I actually learned this from you. Shout out to Pooh. Um, you have to go in, and I cannot stress this enough, especially when you are in your lane, you are killing it, and you know who you are for the most part. There's always self worth. I do want to say that. But when you know who you are, it then goes into setting boundaries.
Mm.
Boundaries are so important. I cannot stress that enough. And I can tell you now, like, when you set boundaries and it's with folks that could be in your family or your circle of friends, they are not going to like it, and it is okay. It
It's
is.
good for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. But if they're for you and they believe in you and they believe in your vision, they'll fall. The folks that need to be around, they'll fall in line,
Yeah.
right? So I'll say that. I'll leave it.
Yeah, tell me a little bit because I mean that's a big statement, and I know that we share so much space and time,
Yeah.
but thinking about boundaries, like how and what ways would you say boundaries were something that you picked up out of our relationship? Was there a specific situation? Or is there something that jumps out when you think about it? Because I thought for a long time I was really good at boundaries, and I think you again evolve because 18-year-old Rachel, I think, so asserted boundaries out of survival.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older, I asserted boundaries out of preference and desire. And then I realized I went back into survival mode. And just now at 30, am I recognizing that I'm choosing to make boundaries that are very intentional, not from a place of trauma or from a place of aggression. And it's very easy to go between the two, you know.
I would say I think I like the way that you were doing things from a friend's perspective.
Mhm.
Even if you were like losing your stuff behind the scenes, I from
Which I did.
but I liked the way that you were doing things. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Let me just take some of that juice and add it to my life. But I'm trying to think of anything in particular. Obviously, I know you very well. And without giving your business away too much, just probably even talking to you about dating,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
about dating and just of how you move in that space and what you accept and what you don't accept, even with your family, right? What you accept and what you don't accept. And then what we share is that, we have kind of this ladder and this tree that we're climbing to get where we want to go. And
Mhm.
it was important to not to have that energy around us. And then also to know that you just can't be on the same stuff that you were on if you're trying to get where you're going, you
That.
know.
Mhm.
So I can't think of anything particular, but that theme
Yeah.
has just always been consistent, really.
Yeah.
Boundaries, if I can speak for myself, I remember when I moved back to Michigan as an adult, because I was no longer a child, right? So moved
Mhm.
back to Michigan and having to set those new adult boundaries with my parents. Oof,
Oh, it's so
yeah.
hard. It is
Yes,
hard.
it was hard, because your parents always think of you as your child. And I'm sure every adult child goes through this, and where you have to, I don't want to say check your parents, but you have to remind them that you're adult in a very loving way.
Mhm.
And it was rough at first. It was rough at first, but now we're pretty good. We're good.
Took some
So
time, but you figured it out.
no time, but we're
Definitely. Definitely. Man, as a creative, I'll tell you, when I think back to initial boundaries, being the oldest sibling helps a lot. So let
mm,
me just put that out there. Like I have always had to create spaces for folk to thrive among one another. So I think that that's it. And I think about how I came from home and then creating our space where the four of us live together. We did have to we immediately jumped into healthy boundaries. We immediately jumped into checking ourselves, checking each other, saying, yep, nope, that's okay, not okay. It's the simple things, it's the little things. It's not always like, hey, I don't need you in this physical space. It can be the tiny little things. And so when I think about, yeah, I had a conversation with another super long standing friend and colleague, and he talked about contracts and how important it is to have contracts as creatives, even with your friends. And he's like, you know, Ray, I worked with Rachel before, and she has sent me a contract, protect your identity, protect your intellectual property. And so how that translates from the personal life to your professional life, you know, when you get a roommate, for example, we had a roommate agreement. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I was like, I know we all going on a lease and whatnot, but there needs to be a separate set of rules, a separate set of like instructions, so to speak, that we can follow as a guide for ourselves should something happen. And sure enough, we needed to use that at some point when we were making decisions about if we were going to continue to live with each other after that first year. You know, we went through some craziness with our apartment. We had a lot to figure out, but that little roommate agreement gave us like a parameter for which to communicate. And then thinking about how today, how important it is to have a contract as a business owner. I'm sure you're not walking around doing any concierge services without, you know, without very clear, and those type of clients who would want that service probably have an expectation of clarity. So boundaries is not just putting up a restriction. It's usually a set of instruction, some kind of formal or informal way to say, this is my need. This is how I want to be served. This is how I want to show up. And this is what I'm looking for. Do you have that for me?
Absolutely. And it also goes into a respect thing, right?
Yeah.
So respect, you have to have it. And then, you know, with the boundary or the contract, we'll call it a contract. There, if you set that boundary or have that contract, you then also now have to live up to that standard. So there's accountability on both sides. So
It is. I call these those divine agreements. You know, we make them with ourselves, we make them with the universe, God, the creator, however you want to identify, and then we make them with people. But if you are not clear on your agreements, you'll find that, and I had to learn this the hard way. I really did. I had to learn this the hard way. Integrity is like the biggest thing that I want to embody in the next decade of my life. So this is again a part of my decade in review series, and integrity, it's why we are as tight as we are.
absolutely.
Like, it's absolutely why we are as tight as we are. We have been 100% authentic and of integrity from the beginning, but as a creator and as a business owner, and just having to find my way through again, jumping out there, not knowing much about it, you go through iterations of refinement. And when I started my career, I didn't know anything about anything. I definitely have a natural form of integrity because my mother and my father did raise me a certain kind of way. And I would say observing them taught me more about who I am, and through the things that they were unable or did not have, just the skills that they didn't have were the skills that I specifically went out and got. And then I took their best qualities. Yes, but go ahead, Pooh.
I would, let me, if I could just jump in there, because that makes me so excited. We talked about this the other day, and it can be used in so many different ways, right? So if you come from a family that seems to be unsupportive or just aren't as verbal as you need them to be, or actionable, they're not showing in their actions that you know, they support you, they love you, they care about you, don't look at that as a negative thing. Couple reasons. A, they may not have the tools. They're probably doing the best that they have. They probably do have good intentions. I like to describe it as being passionate, and just leave it there and be optimistic about it. However, what I will say, take that energy, and this is family, friends, coworkers, anybody that you have around you. Take that energy and just learn from it. Okay, I know what not to do, which is only going to empower you to be a better person and be able to go after things way more aggressive, way more analytical, have a lot more tact, and just really can step back and assess the situation and figure it out. So I needed to learn that as well too. And I don't know if that was just me being a sensitive Patty, or if it was just like, man, these people just don't care about me. But
Yeah.
Once I figured that out, I'm just like, okay, everybody absolutely, they want the best for you. They just may not have the tools. And also, truth be told, they probably are feeling some type of way because they're not able to do it.
And to that point, we're millennials, right? And I always talk about this in our millennial magic, right? You know, that is a thing. We are in a very interesting place between our parents and Gen Z.
Yes.
We it ain't never been done before. The things that we're experiencing, there was no way for them to imagine that we would live the life that we have lived since the technological boom, specifically the digital age of the 90s. Like there's just no way to have predicted that, at least for our parents and their parents. So they had ideas around how we would be, and we had ideas based on what they said we would be, and then we got there and was like, wait a minute.
That part.
Now y'all said this ain't that. Like the world is not set up that way anymore. So there is a bit of shock to get through. There is the initial letdown and disappointment of the fact that our parents thought they were setting us up a certain kind of way. And this world is not set up for that. There's also the fact that, you know, the world has changed even for us from when we were born to now. Gen Z is going to take us somewhere totally different. Absolutely. But in the midst of that, we're holding that little bit of tradition that's left. So I think it's a balance of, like you said, like observe them, be aware of the things that they absolutely just maybe didn't have available to them in the first place to then pass down. You cannot give what you have never received. It's
absolutely. And like, for shout out to the boomers that are watching this. This is not an attack on you at all.
Not at all.
Please don't take that.
Shout out to the boomers for real, because they did work. They just didn't know.
Yeah, my parents are boomers. Shout out to them. But also too, I had to take a step back and look at it this way too. And this is just some generational stuff. Boomers you were groomed on a common theme of fear, right?
Yeah.
You were taught to not, just something as simple, do not get in the car with strangers. What do we do now? Uber and Lyft.
Uber everywhere.
Right.
Fearless. Like we don't even think about it.
Don't think twice about it. It's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. Millennials are completely fearless, and it's cool because boomers, you all indirectly gave us that space to be that way. But also indirectly did not give us that space.
Yeah, to your point. That's a good point. Would you, I really love this conversation. I like the direction that it happened. I'm just so everybody knows, we're all about organic flow. Like never is it a dull moment, number one, but also never is this where we are trying to push or impose a certain kind of like direction of conversation. If that's what you're looking for, you ain't gonna find it here. But what you will find here is organic flow and definitely authenticity. So some of the things that have come up that I just want to like circle back on and make sure that we talk about a little bit deeper with your journey as a creator is, I know your retail background. I know personally you have styled me virtually and in person. Y'all, I got all kind of, I'm gonna try to bing, 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 put the pictures in here so y'all can see like behind the scenes, him on set with me for photo shoots. Like he's redone my closet several times. In fact, after this airs, he will have already been here with me in Dallas, redoing it again, more than likely. But the thing that I'm saying is, one thing that is true is that you have always been in the styling, fashion, lifestyle space. It did not start with doing 80 style. Gosh, we were working in retail downtown. I remember when you were was it Banana Republic at the time? Or was it J. Crew? Or was it Gap? I can't remember where you were. You were everywhere doing everything. So I don't even know. But I distinctly remember our after work, like shopping sessions, which, tell us about that. Truly, where would you say your journey started?
Okay, perfect. No, that's good. If I go all the way back, actually it would start, I remember I was in 8th grade. Was I in 8th grade? Middle school, one of those. And I remember my dad, and he just kind of stuck a little nugget in me, and it just kind of took off from there, somewhere in middle school. But he goes, so I go by J.Moore, but birth given name Joshua. He goes, Josh, you should start saving some money and take your clothes to the dry cleaner. So that way, they look better and just quality. And we kind of had that whole conversation. And ever since that, my dad, shout out to David, right?
Come on, David.
In my head, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. And really that was kind of my journey that kind of led me into where I'm at now. And then also seeing my dad, who's a labor worker, he would come home and he would like pamper himself, right? He worked in a
Wow.
factory. So he would come home, he would take baths, and he would do all the things that were typically feminine energy. But my dad is a very masculine man, very, very hardworking. So I seen it from both sides. And then before him, my granddad, who always was intact, always had a suit jacket on, never seen him with a bad shave or anything.
I
So
need to
really,
see a picture of Papa Moore, because all right, he was bad, wasn't he?
kind of the motto. That was kind of the motto. So on to there, fast forward, I jump into high school, going to retail. I believe I started working at the Gap, and then so on, all the retail experience.
Mhm.
Now, cut to college where I meet my poo, Rachel. I would work all day. She would work in retail or whatever job she had at the time. I would work in my retail job, picking up little different nuggets that I now apply to 180 style and just how we are. And retail gives you a really good perspective on customer service, which I think
Absolutely.
we agree on.
Absolutely.
So you have all of that, and then what was bomb and one of the best memories is that we would go and mind you, people, we like are broke. Okay, we live in Chicago. We're
AF. Come on, tell the people the truth.
broke. Okay, baby was out.
Oh my
Rib cage was out. All right, baby was broke. But
God.
we would go, and it might every pay period. I think it was. So every 2 weeks.
What was it? It was every 2 weeks. Yeah, we were hitting it every 2 weeks. And I just want to add, you were in retail, and at that time when we were doing that, I was working at the boutique in Dearborn, on Dearborn, in Chicago.
Yep. And so we would just meet up, and organically it just would happen. It probably happened where we just called each other, oh, what are you doing after work? And literally came in this rhythm. And now thinking about it, it was just, we probably needed that.
It was therapy. It was the epitome of retail therapy because I think we both left Columbia.
Yep.
We both dropped out of art school because it was ridiculously expensive. We both went the route of working a bunch of jobs while also attending community college. Yep. And then we ended up both with jobs in the downtown area. So mind you, we're still living together at this time. We're living together. So it's like, we're so busy. We never see each other at home except for the occasional, everybody, like the idea of the four of us coming together was super rare. But when it did happen, it would be over a box on the floor for the first couple of months until I upgraded and we got a table, and then we got a little futon. So, piece by piece. And that is the true journey. Don't let these people tell you that you got to just come in and be ready-made. Piece by piece, brick by brick is the way. And so anyway, we would meet downtown, and that would be our one time that we could intentionally get together as friends because we were friends.
Absolutely. And it's important to find somebody to go through that like crazy period, right? Yeah. But needless to say, you're right. It was retail therapy. We worked in retail, we came together as friends, and it was someone that was like an advocate, right?
Yeah.
I was going through, I knew what you was going through.
Yeah.
Everything. You gave me a good laugh. And then, we went back on with our day because we had to go and fight the rest of the week. So
yeah, that was some of the best memories. Like, those are some of my best memories, and they got me through. Like you said, they definitely got us through the hardest moments. I just want to tell this really quick story and how even today, you and your styling, how it translates to so many things emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, like all of that. But I was turning 20. I must have turned 20 that year. Yeah. So this, just to give you guys a point of reference, this is our 2010 year that I'm highlighting for the decade in review, which is the start of the decade. So I was turning 20, and Pooh and Roman and Ken planned an amazing surprise day for me. Pooh, you want to tell it?
No, actually,
I'm gonna tell it from my perspective. Pop in when you want. So I woke up, and I had been saying I wanted to do a few things. Like, I was like, oh, I really want this jacket that I saw. Oh, I want to go to the Botanical Gardens. All these things, just dropping hints, but not necessarily thinking that my broke college roommates were going to make that happen for me. Just talking, And so they came together. I'll tell you, I don't care if you want to know you're loved. Watch 3 broke men come together and make your day special.
We had 3
Broke
pennies.
in who barely have time for themselves make time for you. That changed my life. It actually set the standard for me loving, like, again, men that were not my brothers, my father, my uncles, my cousins. It gave me a totally different standard for how I expect to be treated
But
and how love shows up.
yeah, but if I can interject, and I'm so sorry, I know we're like,
No, do your thing.
but like on that note, you're absolutely right, but also the same as well too, because I think as men we're dumb, okay, like we're idiots, we're just dumb, we are late to the party, okay. Women are beyond, I don't know how you guys do this, like women are smart, you're intelligent, like, and once all men figure this out and we stop trying to play y'all like y'all sociopath, would be good to go, all right. But that day, and I am so fortunate that I had a really close female friend at the time, that taught me like to empower me as a man,
Yeah.
but also to empower me to like do things like that, right? Because as men, I think our natural instinct is like to go hunt and pray and kind of just be all in our zone. But women, you all have the capability, just because the way that you're set up, to think about all these different things that, man, we're just dumb. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. We're idiots, right? So I just wanted to say that, but we can go back to your story. But it was
Yeah, yeah,
a thing. Like we needed that. We didn't even know we needed that, but we needed
yeah.
that at the time to give us that perspective. Another
It was
story.
magical. It was literally magical though, because I know y'all. I know y'all intimately. And I was like, wow. Not only did y'all pull it off, you pulled it off excellently. So I'm just gonna breeze through it. We woke up. Pooh's like, we're going to breakfast. It's your birthday. We're going to breakfast. And I remember being like, okay, I like that. That's normal for us, going to eat something, you know? And so we get downtown, we're sitting down, but he acting real funny, y'all. I'm like, something is really strange and off, but I have no idea. And no one has ever successfully surprised me because my quick mind can pick up perceptive women's intuition, all that good stuff. So I'm aware something's happening, but I have no dot connections of my 3 men putting this together for me. I just don't. There's just no way. We eat breakfast. We hop out. We're on Michigan Avenue downtown, and he's like, "Come on, Pooh, let's go. Let's go on to Victoria's Secret and pick up." I'm like, "What? Okay." So we go in, we do a little shopping, and then he's like, "All right, time to go." Grabs my arm, and the car pulls up because we have one car among all 4 of us, and it was only Roman's car. We have one car, and it's a silver. I can't remember right now. Malibu. It's a silver Malibu. He pulls up. We hop in, and they kidnap me for the day. I'm like, where are we going, y'all? It's a surprise. And I'm literally in tears, like already, because it doesn't really matter where we're going. They drive all the way out to the botanical garden. So from downtown, that's at least a 40-minute drive. And these 3 men are walking with me through the flower gardens.
And
Okay.
mind you as well.
It was also warm.
Yeah, we don't care about going. I mean, at the time, now it makes sense. But at the time, as a child, it didn't make sense. I don't care about going to no garden. Like,
let me put it into perspective.
Yeah.
Animation graphics designer, right? Yep. And I think at the time, in a programmer. And then you were in school.
Child development.
For child development.
Yep.
They looking like, we going to what? Okay. So we go to Botanical Gardens. They're great sports. We have a great time. We wrap it up. And then we go have, and they're like, so you mentioned that you wanted, and this had to come from him directly because he's the only one that, again, spent this time with me getting to know my style, my fashion. We had all these shopping experiences. He's like, you keep mentioning this jacket. What do you want to, like, we're out, we know you can't find it at this location. So we out, let's go find it. We drive to like 3 Gap stores until we found it. And when we found it, and I wear that jacket to this day, I will not give up that jacket. It's like my lucky jacket now, but it's this cute little denim jacket. We found it. And then after I think we just went to Lou Malnati's and had pizza for dinner. But that day changed my life. It just set a standard for teamwork, cooperation, selflessness, sacrifice, the management of not just what I want, but what other people want. Like y'all came together and planned that on your own. And it really changed everything for me. But to me, that was so important. And I just, I've thanked you many times, but I also just want to attribute that to your journey, because I think that to me, that's the epitome of concierge work. That's the epitome of listening to your client. That's the epitome of hearing someone's needs and their desires and their wants, and then like curating the experience. Because I know it was primarily you. I know that Roman was the one who was most able and willing to do anything to make me happy at that time. And Kim was just down for the ride because he loved me, you know, but I know that it took your planning mind to pull that together, because neither one of them would have got off their butt to do that.
No,
Not without, and I know, but I give it all to the team, because I know that was definitely a team effort, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, all these years later.
Right. And now
now we're here. Started from the bottom.
Now we're here.
So Jay, you know, if there's anything, if you had one piece of advice to offer people, especially creators who are maybe in fashion, but even outside of that, who are looking to start concierge businesses, or what, you know, I like to call it like, more recently, I've come up with this term, you know, we talk about specialty curation, or batch, like, you know, small batch. When we think about food, you like go to a nice farm to table restaurant, you want a small batch cookie. You don't want something that's been created 100,000 times. You want the one that was made just for you. So what, in my opinion, you know, in your opinion, what would you say are some small batch tips, or some tips for a small batch service, the way that you curate?
Perfect. I would say do the work intentionally. So it kind of breaks down in a couple different. So when you do the work, think of it as a canvas, right? A blank canvas. You can paint it any way that you want. You'll keep coming back. You'll keep editing it. You'll even when you get to the point where you're like, oh, this is cool, you then now have to level up on that. So that's doing the work, right? It's a revolving door. Intentionally. Being intentional, meaning that you're paying attention to detail and you know where you're going. So you can forecast, but you also, and to forecast, you have the quality to sit back and assess as well too. Mm-hmm. That's good. I needed to hear that.
Yeah. Come on, forecast. So, shout out to the Creative Flow Forecast inside of Creative Flow Academy. Come and do your forecast, because it's everything. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's knowing. We have to be able to zoom out and then zoom back in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that I would say that's probably the first thing that comes to my head.
Yeah. So create with intention, be intentional, treat it like a blank canvas, make sure it's what you want to see. And before you jump in, like, just come in with that intention. I really appreciate that. I think that's a great tip and tool. How can people, if someone is interested in working with you, if they're interested in, like, you know, hey, I don't, or even from two perspectives, like maybe as a client, but also maybe as someone who wants to consult with you to learn more about how to start the kind of work that you're doing?
Fantastic. Very good question. Thank you for the plug. So you can go to www.180style.com, or you can hit me on my Instagram at J.Moore. Everything is doubled. So JJMMOORREE.
He is real extra, y'all. Okay. He is so extra. I love it.
And it's so crazy because I just got, I got the idea because I have two O's in my last name. So I said, well, let me double everything else.
I love it. Double or nothing, right? Double or nothing. And of course, everything that he shared with you will be available to you guys right here in the description. So I just want to encourage you, if you are someone who, especially in fashion and styling, he's downplaying all of his brilliance. I want you to know, like, he's brilliant and it's intuitive. It's very intuitive. If I had to place him in one of the 4 Creative Flow Alchemy seasons, I would consider Pooh to be in the same season as me, which is that intuitive season. So definitely, and just to give you the frame, you have the inquisitive season, which is that very first season, that's usually through childhood when you're just kind of figuring out, oh my God, some kind of inspiration. Oh, I saw this movie. I saw this. My dad said this to me, as Pooh pulled out the inquisitive season. And then we graduate into the inspired season, where we're taking and making inspired action. It's now I'm ready to use this nugget, this thing that was just a thought before, and put it into action. And now I would say we're in that intuitive season, where mind, body, soul, spirit, lifestyle, everything is connected, and we can see it as a sync experience. We're not fragmented. We know where we're going. We made decisions that are intentional. And of course, graduating to that 4th season, which you guys, you're going to meet other people as I bring them on, who I think are even much further than where I am. And I would consider them to be at that intentional season. And that intentional season actually has a lot more to do with impact. And so thinking beyond the self, thinking beyond, building your business and thinking about the legacy you leave behind, which, trust me, it's in every season. It's not a graduated linear journey, but it definitely means in order to serve my community, I have to have done my work. And I think that we're in that space of doing our work, like truly doing our work, so that we can look back and say, I put in the time, I put in the work. And so if you could, again, if you're someone who wants to get to at least understanding how to get this far and so much, and even beyond, because again, he has a business partner. He has a plethora of experience and an amazing resume, has worked with some amazing real, and we're not even going to get into the fact that he has a background in performance arts. So like, we're not even going to do that. Like, we are not even going to spend time talking about the many years of like dance and liturgical performances and just the rich creative background that we did not have time to talk about that today. So we may have to have a part 2 with you to talk about like some of those origin stories, but definitely reach out to him. Definitely go follow him. If not for style, then just for good times, because he always will put a smile on your face. And I don't know, he's just one of the best men that I know. Like, I'm very blessed to have him in my life. So I love you, Pooh. And again, y'all, check us out, creativeflowalchemy.com. You can find out more about people like Pooh. You can work with, J.Moore. Y'all can find out more about people like Pooh. It is what it is. I said what I said, okay? I love you very Call him Pooh. He calls me Pooh. We're the Poohs, okay? Anyway, y'all, it's been real. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, connect with us. And yeah, we're out.
Peace out.